Now let's move over to the measurement of fertility. What is fertility? Let me first define it to you. Fertility is the actual number of children born alive to women against fecundity. Fecundity is the physiological ability of women to bear children. Okay? So that there are two different things. But whatever it is, there is a lifespan of reproductive period of women, which varies between about 15 years. That's when a woman can start conceiving, and it ends up to 49 years. So in the analysis of fertility, both age and sex are very important. Men cannot produce any children. It's only confined to women who are between ages 15 to 49 years. The basic measure of fertility as against crude death rate is the crude birth rate. It's basically the same formula, number of live births in a year, divided by the total population at mid-year, multiplied by 1,000. That gives you a rate which is known as crude birth rate against crude death rate. Now, if you know the crude birth rate and you know the crude death rate, then you can determine the population growth rate. The difference between the crude birth rate and crude death rate and population growth rate is simply population growth rate is calculated in percentages. Crude birth and crude death rates are calculated in per 1,000. Now, there is an improvement over crude death rate because, as I mentioned, that since reproduction is only confined, or childbirth is only confined to women between ages 15 to 49, and they are women, that's why one can calculate what is known as general fertility rate. General fertility rate, basically the numerator remains the same, number of live births in a year, but the denominator changes, number of women ages 15 to 49. Now, general fertility rate, again, it is very difficult to explain what it is. Basically, what it means that out of a woman, that many number, as I mentioned in Pakistan, there are 22% of total population of women. Of the total population, 22% are women in reproductive age groups. That means that out of that many women, how many births took place. But that still is not explained, doesn't explain, because as I mentioned, that as age-specific death rate tells you that the risk of dying is different at different ages, is high, very high at infancy. It is very low when they are children, especially between ages 10 to 40, children and young adults, and then it starts increasing as people die more frequently as they age. Therefore, one has to find a corresponding figure, corresponding measure of fertility, which is known as age-specific fertility rate, which is simply the number of live births in a year to women, age X, that means any age, divided by number of women age X, multiplied by nothing. Because ASFR is usually calculated per woman. Therefore, it is not multiplied by 1,000. If you do multiply it by 1,000, then you have to make adjustment into it, and I'll come to that later why. So one could calculate ASFR for 7 different age groups as shown in the slide here. Calculation of age-specific fertility rate from a survey conducted in Pakistan in 1997. Like this, that age group of women, 15 to 19, there are 3,100 women who were in the age group. The 255 gave birth. Age-specific birth rate or fertility rate comes to 0.082. If you multiply that by 100, that means 82% of women who were 15 to 19 years of age, they gave birth. And as you proceed further, you see that as they grow older, especially in the 20s, between 20 to 24 and 20 to 25, the number of births increases per woman. For example, it goes from 0.082 to 245 to 275, which means that the women who are, of all the women in a population, 24.5% of them gave birth during the last year. And you go further, 25 to 29, 27.5% gave birth. So as the age increases, age-specific fertility rate also increases. And so much so that when they reach ages 45 to 49, very few births, very few women who are that old give birth, which means age-specific fertility rate of 0.023. That means only 23% of women who were in this age group, they gave birth. So compare that with 24.5% of women 20 to 24 who gave birth, as compared to only 2.3% of women in the age group. There are 640 women who belong to that age group. This is known as age-specific fertility rate. Now, what is its significance? If you add all the age-specific fertility rate, for example, 0.082, 0.245, and all that, it comes to a number which means 1.53. That means basically about 10.5% of women gave birth. So there were 11,800 women, and only 10.5% of them gave birth. If you take that number and just multiply that by 5, you will get a number which is known as total fertility rate. And for example here, 10.53 multiplied by 5, that comes to 5.26. What it means that on an average, each woman is going to bear or give birth to more than 5 children per year. Okay, so one thing which is very important then to note, that age-specific fertility rate varies greatly by age. As I mentioned before, the number of births are high when they are women are in the younger age group, is substantially higher in the 20s, and then shows a downward trend in the 30s and reaches close to 0 in the late 40s. Thus, the age-specific fertility rate is close to a bell-shaped curve. In most societies, the highest age-specific fertility rate is reported in ages 25 to 29, as shown in the figure here. Now, here there are 3 different times when survey data are available for Pakistan: 1984, 1996, and 2006, when the last demographic and health survey was conducted. And it shows that total fertility rate declined. It was more than 6 in 1984. It became little more than 5 in 1996, and in 2006, it's close to 4. One thing which you will notice, that the greatest decline occurred in the younger age groups. For example, those women who are very young, 15 to 19, about age-specific rate was 0.103. That means 10% of them gave birth in 1984. Against in 2006, only 5% of them gave birth. One can illustrate the age-specific rate in terms of graphs. These are the 3 different time periods. As you could see that in 1984, age-specific fertility rate is high in each age group. It is again high in 1996 in each age group. And in year 2006, it's again higher in each age group. Lower in each age group. But one thing which is very interesting to note, that the peak of reproduction occurs in the age group 25 to 29 in each period. But one has to note here that if you proceed, you can calculate age-specific fertility rate as far as you have data available, either in the past, or one can even project that given this is the age structure of the population, that many women are there, what's going to be the age-specific fertility rate in the future.